Thank you to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I have my iPad here with me alongside with my sketchbook, and the reason being is that these are kind of my most used materials when it comes to sketching and drawing. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a mini kind of like swap of different processes. So basically I want to swap my sketches from one surface to the other and also color with the opposite medium, if that makes sense. So let's start off with my sketchbook and I'll kind of explain what I'm going to be doing today. So for the sketching process, I am going to start with sketching in my sketchbook, and then later on I'm going to be taking a photo of it and then transferring that to my iPad to do the coloring. This way I can kind of just mess around with the different kind of like processes of both utilizing my knowledge for traditional and kind of my knowledge for digital. But I think it's also just a fun opportunity to show you guys how to kind of like one or two ways to incorporate digital into your traditional work or traditional into your digital work. It's just kind of a fun little swap that I wanted to do for today's video. So to kind of like start off with the theme on what I wanted to draw, I am going to be drawing Niji Sanji EN VTubers just because I think they always have very vibrant and fun designs that I can do for like coloring, and they have a lot of details so I can kind of mess around with the sketching process if anything. So the first person that I'm going to be drawing in my sketchbook, and I'm going to do like a mini spread of Doppio Drop Scythe. So I wanted to draw Doppio because he has a good amount of like kind of a reddish purple color alongside with a lot of black and gold, so I can kind of push the values where I want to for the pencil sketch, but then when we get to coloring there's still going to be a lot of vibrancy. So for me, I am going to pretty much approach sketching normally. For the pencil work, I'm just using a mechanical pencil. I believe it's 0.5 lead, and it's just HB, I think it's HB lead. I don't really use 2B too much for a mechanical pencil, so I'm pretty sure that this is HB. So I'm just going to sketch out Doppio. I'm going to clean up the sketch a little bit, but I don't like to erase too much unless I have like very obvious errors where I want to kind of fix stuff up. Other than that, the second sketch, I'm actually going to approach it a little bit lighter compared to how I do my sketches here. So if you've seen my pencil work before, and I'm going to kind of hop between real time and kind of time-lapse footage, so hopefully you guys don't mind too much. But for me, whenever I work with pencil work, I tend to work super messy and a little bit lighter when I'm kind of like roughing it out. And then later, which is what you guys are seeing right now, is that this is kind of like the process of me, what I would consider like my rendering process, or even just bring it up to like a certain finish. So I tend to darken certain lines to make it a little bit bolder. This is where I'm adding shading, or if I want to add more values or just like transitions to make form read less flat, this is kind of where I tend to do it. So for now, I kind of have Doppio in this pose where he's kind of leaning back. He has his one leg propped up and a hand over his knee because I wanted to take up as much of the sketchbook space as possible, because I didn't want to do too many drawings for this because I am going to be doing another drawing this video, and I didn't want the length of the video to be too long. Otherwise, I don't know, for me at least, it's going to be a little bit of a hassle to draw too many things and kind of finagle my way through the process. But for the most part, sketching with pencil in my sketchbook is just one of my favorite ways of just, if I have the urge to draw or I want to jot down ideas or anything like that. Thumbnailing, I love doing traditionally and usually in my sketchbook or on post-it notes. And then digital, I love the coloring process the most. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me do a swap eventually, because I do find it kind of interesting how people do utilize usually kind of either digital into traditional work like painting, or for like marker work, or if you're using your pencil sketch as like a base for your digital work. There's like a bunch of ways you can do it. And yeah, we're just gonna work on the second sketch of Doppio. So the first sketch of Doppio was kind of more of a, I wouldn't even consider it like a full body, but it's not like a super close-up of his face or anything. So I wanted to kind of include at least one close-up of his face, so maybe we can kind of fiddle around with maybe values, some lightings and stuff, but I'll kind of run into one small issue in a little bit. So I'll probably show you guys that probably later when we actually get to the coloring phase. But for the most part, I had a lot of fun drawing Doppio. He's such a, like, I don't know, he's very interesting personality-wise, very fun, a little bit out of the box kind of person. Like, he's kind of unpredictable, if anything, but his kind of visual design, so like his model and stuff, it's very punchy, kind of bold, and it's just very fun. I feel like he has that kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like dog energy in a sense, because he seems very positive, very hyperactive in a sense. So it's kind of fun to draw for the most part anyways. And I think his face, like his facial features are kind of fun. He has a bit sharper eyes, but he has lighter eye color. He has a mixture of like purple, black, and white hair. So it's just like a lot of things you can play around with in terms of either value or even like with color. So yeah, the second person I'm going to draw, I feel like a very similar sentiment in terms of their design. So yeah, we'll talk about that when I get there. So to fill up the little bit of space that I have left on my kind of like sketchbook spread, I decided to throw in a quick chibi of Doppio on the side, just because I would like to get a little bit more like smaller details and stuff for when we do the coloring, just because I think to vary it up would be the best. So right now I'm kind of positioning my sketchbook, and I'm not going to be scanning or taking like a direct view. I kind of want it to be like one of those aesthetic looking sketchbook spreads that people usually do when they post to social media. I'm going to be sending those photos to myself so we can get started with the coloring. Before I transfer my Doppio sketch to my iPad to color, I wanted to let you guys know more about TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. They are snack boxes that allow you to experience Japan from the comfort of your own home, all packaged in these cute, well-packaged boxes. They are packed with so many snack goodies. TokyoTreat is the heaviest Japanese snack box with 15 to 20 full-size Japanese snacks, including a Japanese exclusive drink, an instant ramen, exclusive seasonal Kit Kats, and just a whole selection of wonderful snacks. And from all of these, you can see that there are so many different kinds of snacks. I was very excited to see the mystery Fanta bottle. I really like Fanta, and I also see some cute ramen candies and even some cotton candy included. While Sakuraco is an authentic Japanese snack box with new seasonal Japanese treats every month, this box includes Japanese teas, cakes, seasonal Japanese treats, and even some Japanese home goods. I always feel that Sakuraco's snack flavors tend to be my favorite, as they have sweets that are often not too sugary feeling and also a wonderful traditional flavor. I also see some manju, so I'm super excited. For August's box, they included an uchiwa, which is a fan that was introduced in Japan in the 14th century. So this is the bingata uchiwa. Beautiful design and color combination. I love the blue color. Also, it's great for summer since it's very sturdy and actually produces a nice breeze when it's used. Both boxes actually come with a 24-page cultural guide and a booklet that includes information on each of the snacks in the box. This includes cultural information relating to that month and the location. It also includes information regarding each snack, like allergies, preparation instructions if needed, and if the snack is vegetarian friendly. Each month has a different theme, meaning that you get to try out a whole new selection of new treats and snacks every month. For example, TokyoTreat's box theme for the month of August is the Fireworks Flavor Fest, perfect timing for the Natsu Matsuri, which is basically summer festivals, while Sakuraco's theme is the Festivals of Okinawa, with its lovely island balmy breeze and warm atmosphere. So to accompany with some of the snacks, I usually like to try out the tea that came in Sakuraco's box every time. I think that they usually pair very well with the snack selection, and it helps to cut some of that sweetness. The tea for Sakuraco this time is the Sanpin tea, which is a tea that has been celebrated and cherished in the hearts of Okinawa. It aids in digestion, but also has this nice floral aroma, which inspires imagery of warm summer days spent on the beach. I believe from tasting it, it has this kind of jasmine flavor, so I believe it's a jasmine type of tea, which I super enjoy. So I'm gonna drink the tea while I sketch Millie a little bit, but I'll let you guys know some of my favorites or ones that I tried from the box kind of recently. I really love manju. So from the Sakuraco box, they had these kokuto manju, which are basically this brown sugar type of manju, and it has this nice soft velvety bean paste which tastes really nice, and it kind of looks like Clodsire. I'll show you guys a picture so you guys can see it in its full glory. Really kind of looks like Clodsire. The other one was the pineapple mochi manju, which has this very soft and has this really nice pineapple filling. I love how pillowy it feels like because of the mochi layer. Also, another one was the Benny Emo Donut Bow, which also is very sweet and very tasty. It has that very like strong donut-ish kind of fried flavor, which is really tasty. From TokyoTreat, I actually snacked a bit on the festival candies that TokyoTreat had teamed up with Papa Bubble. The designs on these are super cute, but also they have a nice range of sweet flavors, and the salt lemon Kit Kats were also great too. Love the fruit and kind of chocolate flavors that go together, especially for these Kit Kats. So, if you like to get a box for yourself or want to give these as a lovely gift to friends and family, especially during the summer season, check out the links in the description to get your snacks today. I seriously think that you guys will really enjoy the snacks, especially from this box. Thank you again to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Now let's transfer my sketch of Doppio to my iPad so we can do some coloring. So now that I've kind of transferred my sketch to my iPad, and basically how I did it was that I just took a photo with my phone, sent it to myself either through Discord, Dropbox, email, whatever you have to kind of send it your own file to yourself. I then imported the file into Procreate. So I kind of forgot to adjust the sketch lines and just like the photo itself to be a little bit more prepared for what I really want to do. So I always find that this is kind of a fun way to add color to your traditional sketches if you like the photo that you've taken of your sketch via like your phone or whatever. And you know, it's just like a very aesthetically pleasing way that I feel like a lot of people do to their traditional sketches. So right here, I'm going to be changing my sketch or my photo of my sketch to multiply, and you can see that with it being on multiply, colors underneath, so the layer underneath my photo, are now visible. And this works well if your paper is more or less on the white side so that the colors don't alter too much. You can have like other colors do the same thing, but the higher contrast you have from your lines to your surface probably makes it a little bit easier for your colors to read a little bit more cleaner, or if you want to use your lines as some kind of line work instead of just like the pencil sketch itself. So right here, I'm not going to be keeping this coloring. So even though I'm showing you guys the footage, I'm not going to be keeping this. So the brush that I'm using, I think is called Old Beach, and it's from the artistic brushes, which is a default set on Procreate. And it kind of has this almost watercolor-ish texture that I've seen an artist that I really like. I think their name is Gloomy Home on Instagram, and I really like how they use it, but I'm not able to use it in a similar way that they do, and I feel like I haven't played around with it enough, so I decided to scrap that. The second method that I was going to do was to use the same brush and do a full grayscale, and then later on kind of fiddle with the colors after alpha locking it. But I thought maybe instead of doing that, and to keep it more simple, I would just go back to how I usually like to color these kinds of pencil sketches or like previous sketches that I've done in the past, which is using the wet brush. So the wet brush is by Palo something, starts with a D, I think, but I'll leave it in the description as usual. So if you guys want to use some kind of watercolor brush that has a nice texture, it also has like those hard and soft edges, and when you overlap, it has like a similar feeling to how watercolor overlaps if you're doing kind of like a wet on dry method. So I really like this brush. It's also very easy for me to build up value. You'll also see on my left hand side where my size and my opacity are, I have the brush set to just above half, just because I want to have the most control over the value by building it up slowly, rather than having it, you know, constantly just laying down like a huge chunk of color. But I slowly kind of adjust it to where I need it to be depending on what color I'm working with. So right now I'm working on Doppio's skin tone. I have a little bit of lighting set up as well. And then after that, I'm kind of just blobbing in his hair color, and we'll do the same thing for other areas like his clothing. And then once we finish with this Doppio sketch, I am going to kick it into time lapse again for the rest, so you guys don't have to go through the entire process of watching me do this for 3 sketches. And you can see that this brush is quite good at, I don't know, having this nice like traditional look, but it's very easy to build up color and it doesn't look too out of place. Now, I mentioned that I forgot to prep my file before coloring. Now, you don't really have to do this. You can see that with the lighter colors for Doppio's color scheme and stuff, it's actually showing up quite well. And because my sketch or my photo is set to multiply, they're automatically going to turn darker compared to whatever color I'm putting underneath. But if you really want your lines to stand out, you might want to play around with your, I think it's like gamma on the Procreate, like on the apps, like where you can fiddle with the settings and stuff. That'd be like where gradation is, like Wi-Fi is, like those things. You can see me fiddling with it right now. So you can see I'm trying to make my lines a little bit darker, but I'm trying to make sure that my whites don't become too dark either. So I'm having a higher contrast basically, and it looks a lot better because I can see my lines and my colors don't seem too washed out alongside with my lines. Now, to do this in Clip Studio Paint, I think it's kind of similar. And then in Photoshop, you're able to actually go into color adjustments, I believe, and you can actually select white for the eyedropper and select the color of your paper, and it will kind of like automatically adjust your values. So that's another way, but you might want to be wary because sometimes those kind of using that white eyedropper thing kind of blows out your picture a little bit. So you might want to be careful and kind of fiddle around with where you're selecting your whites of your paper and stuff if you're using something like Photoshop. But to carry on, you can see that near the edges and stuff, I am making sure that I'm keeping things clean so that it kind of looks like the color is contained on the page and on the spread. And I don't want to go too dark with my colors because I do like the watercolor wash look, which tends to be a little bit more muted or a little bit more faded. But I also don't want to really interrupt the kind of like how I have my sketch laid out, because I personally like seeing people's pencil sketches, and even though this is not like my go-to method, I love just seeing sketches where there's no color, there's no extra values applied with using some kind of wet medium. I love just seeing kind of like just the raw pencil marks. So if I can, I tried my best to not darken up the values too much so that I'm covering up my own pencil lines. But I think for Doppio's color palette, it was pretty okay. I think also the black areas, I didn't go too dark anyways, so everything reads kind of nicely and you can still see the traditional pencil marks. Unfortunately, this sketch actually got a little bit fuzzy and a little bit blurry just because of the angle. So even though I wanted this one to have a little bit more punchier colors because I left a lot of like space for the colors to be, it didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted, but the center one and the chibi one turned out really cute. So let's move on to the next one, which is kind of doing the opposite. So I am on my iPad still, and we are going to be sketching on my iPad, and then I'm going to be coloring traditionally. So let's talk about the sketch a little bit. Similar process to how I usually draw digitally on Procreate. I'm starting with a little bit of a thicker brush than my sketching brush, and I'm going to be planning out the body a little bit. So I'm going to be drawing Millie Parfait, which is another Niji-sanji EN VTuber liver. And I really love her color scheme, and when I'm going to be working with the traditional medium, there's some colors that I really gravitate towards, and there's some colors that I haven't really worked with as much. So in Millie's color scheme, she has a lot of like turquoise teal kind of color, almost like greenier, I guess like leaning towards the green side, and then she has a lot of black. She also has blonde hair, but then her accent color is also orange. So I don't really use orange a lot when working traditionally, so I kind of wanted to take advantage and work with a little bit of orange and work with that kind of punchier teal color and kind of a significant amount of black. I just thought it would be kind of fun to work with that color palette, and her design kind of fits what I wanted, like for the criteria of it, if that makes sense. So, for the sketch, I am going to keep in mind that I am going to be coloring with a traditional medium, so I'm not going to go ahead and put in too much detailing for my digital sketch. Even though when I was sketching with the pencil, I was trying to keep how I usually sketch with the pencil, and then I will color to work around, kind of like work around it. But this one, I'm trying to complement the coloring by making sure that my sketch will read correctly, just because you do have a little bit of more wiggle room when it comes to digital medium versus traditional medium. So for the traditional one, where I sketched in my sketchbook and then I used the wet brush to do the coloring, I still wanted to keep a little bit of that more traditional feel, so that's why I didn't do my normal rendering and coloring on that sketch. But for this one, I'm going to be doing something similar where I'm going to choose a medium traditionally that's going to match similar to my digital style, just because I think the comparison's a little bit more, I don't know, easier to see that way. And I think it's fun to see the kind of look you can achieve with traditional medium if you have the opportunity to use them alongside with your digital medium. Hopefully that makes sense. My brain is slightly fried right now, but that's okay. Hopefully I'm still coherent. So something I'm gonna notice like pretty late is that I was drawing in the wrong aspect ratio, and kind of like the format of the paper is not going to match my canvas size. So even though I'm putting some of the detailing on her sleeves and like the lower part of her outfit, a lot of it's going to be cut off. I'm also going to be cutting off quite a bit of her hat just because I needed to kind of fit it into a square, even though I've made it rectangular. So this is kind of how I cropped it, and I printed it out because I noticed that I wanted to also change the line color. Because like I said, I have the opportunity to use digital tools, which makes it a lot easier for me to edit and adjust. So I'm going to use that to my ability to kind of let that prep for the actual coloring process traditionally. So I went ahead and made the kind of skin and the kind of like around her face a little bit lighter. And I've printed it onto marker paper because I thought what better suits kind of the digital medium, and I didn't really want to paint. And yeah, I think markers suits it the best, so I'm going to be using alcohol markers. And the thing that I noticed, and I had to make sure that this was correct, is that I own a LaserJet printer. So this does not reactivate or kind of smudge around with my alcohol markers, so I'm able to use my digital sketch as my line art for the marker drawing. And I'm actually quite pleased with how this is going to look at the very end. I think it resembles how I draw digitally, which I think is kind of cool. So if you have the possibility of wanting to merge your alcohol markers or like a traditional medium with your digital work, because maybe you do line art much more cleaner with, you know, your digital work, whether or not it's because you have stabilization or you just have more ability to play around with your lines to get things more accurate and stuff. It's just much easier to do the kind of digitally and then color it traditionally, because I think something about working with traditional medium, I always enjoy the process of it a lot more. I feel like digital sometimes becomes a little bit tedious and monotonous, and it feels very, I don't know, like it's just, it can turn off my brain kind of thing when I work because I'm following like certain steps, and if I kind of screw something up, there's like a way for me to remedy it or fix it or undo. But for traditional, there's a lot more, I don't know, is a little bit more pressure and planning, but there's something fun about just like physically blending things or layering up colors and seeing how they react in real time and on the paper. I think it's just kind of fun. So for the skin tone, I did lay down kind of like a dark peachy color and a more pinkish color for her cheeks and her nose and kind of the shadow-ish areas. And then I filled it in with her skin tone, leaving highlights for her lips and her nose. And then after that, I went ahead and did more shadows. I'm also moved on to her eyes, which I had a lot of fun doing her eyes because she has a really cute kind of gradation from like a yellowy greenish color up until kind of like a turquoise color, and I also added kind of more of a vibrant pink as a little highlight at the very top just to make things look extra shiny and kind of more I don't know, a little bit less dark up there. So I had a lot of fun doing that. After that, I decided to do the hair. So I decided to color kind of like where the band of highlights was. And then because Millie has a gigantic hat, I'm also adding in shadows here and making sure to blend it properly. So it's a mixture of kind of the yellow, a peach color, this kind of muted purple color that I'm kind of using to deepen the shadow. And another fun color I added was kind of this blue, because like I said, Millie has kind of this tealish, like I guess turquoise-ish blue color, I can't speak, that I find is kind of fun to incorporate throughout. And I'm going to try my best to also incorporate orange here and there for her overall color scheme, just because I didn't I don't think I did too good of a job mixing and mingling the colors, but I did have a fun time just coloring in general. I think it's just fun to play around with the markers. So for the larger areas like her hat, I did struggle to actually get a flat kind of, not a wash, but a flat color when I was doing it, because you can see a lot of streakiness. Sometimes when I'm working, you can just see where kind of like the blending, or where I kind of over blended, and then the alcohol marker kind of pulls up and kind of lifts the color a little bit. So I did try my best to make things look a little bit more finished, because I did want to low-key make it resemble my digital art as much as I could in certain areas. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% the same, and if anything, it might be a little bit cleaner than how I usually work when I work digitally, because the lines aren't budging. But a lot of fun working on this. It's a lot of fun colors and just playing around with what colors I can kind of like learn to layer up in a certain way to achieve a certain look. So I did a mixture of like cooler grays and like warmer grays alongside with black and some orange and kind of this weird dusty purple color to get kind of the desired black color for her bow, and then for her hat, and eventually her sleeves as well. And this is kind of like the orange where I was kind of wanting the color more, just because I didn't really color orange as much for like illustrations, either in watercolor, for pencil crayon, for like anything. So I don't use orange too much, even though I think orange is like a very fun color to play around with. So that's kind of like one of the reasons why I wanted to draw Millie, just because she does have this vibrant kind of teal turquoise color, and then she has this really vibrant orange, which I think is super cute. I do wish I was kind of push more of the orange to be much more vibrant and a little bit more red, so I can kind of incorporate a bluish kind of color for the shadows. But I got really timid. I did add a little bit of that turquoise blue into certain areas, and it's very small and very subtle, so I kind of wish I picked a little bit more punchier colors for those. And then after that, I had fun with working with her sleeves, so I was able to incorporate some yellows and some peaches into the shadows of the whites. And then for the black, like I said, I kind of did a mixture of this dusty purple. I added a little bit of orange, a little bit of like darker blue, and a darker kind of like purpley brown. So it's just like a nice mixture, because I think it's kind of fun to have that when you're looking at traditional art and you can kind of see all the different color shifts and stuff. But yeah, Millie's pretty much almost done though, so you can see how the colors kind of match alongside with the alcohol markers, and I actually think it looks kind of similar to how I work digitally. Like I said, it might be a little bit more cleaner, but I think it's kind of fun to work this way. So even though I took one of my sketches and colored it digitally, or traditionally, I guess in this sense, I think it actually worked out pretty well. And I do like the sketches that I did for today and how I colored them in their, I guess, their opposite medium, if anything. So we kind of used a watercolor brush in digital form, and then I tried to mimic kind of my digital look with my alcohol markers, which I think kind of looks kind of cool, and it's kind of fun to do. And I feel like me doing this kind of wants me to try out using my digital line art a little bit more for future drawings, and you know, use that for the base for coloring and stuff if I want a cleaner look. And maybe I'll color some of my sketches like digitally that were from originally in my sketchbook in the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and today's drawings. I think that's it for today's video though, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!